Welcome back to another explainer. Look, if you've ever tried to decode a massive corporate financial filing, you know it can feel a bit like trying to read ancient hieroglyphics. But today, we're taking a dense, 20-plus page regulatory filing from Honda India Power Products, specifically the results for the fiscal year ending March 31, 2026, and we're translating it into a clear, visual narrative. We're going to cut right through the noise to find the signal, looking at everything from multi-crore revenue shifts all the way to some major boardroom shakeups. Let's get right into it. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 4 key areas. 1, the FY26 financial top line. 2, unpacking a rather interesting profit drop. 3, diving into a massive 230% dividend. And 4, checking out the new leadership for FY27.
Starting right off with Section 1, the FY26 financial top line.
Let's take a look at the raw sales engine of the company. On the left here, you can see total revenue from operations for FY25 was sitting at 79,423 lakhs. But fast forward to FY26, and the company generated an incredibly solid 86,545 lakhs. This is exactly what you want to see if you're analyzing this space. Just clear, robust, year-over-year top-line growth. It basically tells us their core business of selling power products, both domestically and internationally, is absolutely expanding.
But here's where it gets interesting, kind of like a financial mystery. We just established that they sold a lot more products, right? Revenue is up. But despite that, their profit before tax actually dropped. It went from 10,770 lakhs in FY25 down to 9,568 lakhs in FY26. Now, your analytical alarm bells should definitely be ringing here, because how in the world does a company make more money on the top line but somehow keep less of it on the bottom line?
Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, unpacking that profit drop.
Seriously, just think about this question for a second. If revenue grew, why did profits take a hit? Did raw material costs suddenly go through the roof? Was there a massive failure in operational efficiency? Well, the beauty of digging into these filings is that we don't have to guess. The answer is actually buried right there in the notes to the audited financial results.
And the culprit? Exceptional items. So back in November 2025, the government of India officially notified 4 new labor codes. We're talking the Code on Wages, Industrial Relations, Social Security, and Occupational Safety. Basically, they took 29 existing labor laws and mashed them into these new codes. And to comply with this huge regulatory shift, Honda India Power Products had to take a one-time statutory hit of 999 lakhs. The filing is super explicit about this. It's a material, regulatory-driven, non-recurring impact. So the business isn't failing or suddenly losing money. This was just a required accounting move to get in line with new national laws.
If we actually slice up that 999 lakhs to see where the money went, it's pretty straightforward. The lion's share, about 702 lakhs, went straight to a provision for gratuity. The remaining 297 lakhs was set aside for long-term compensated absences. You see, when the government changes the rules on Social Security and wage calculations, companies literally have to set aside the cash right then and there to guarantee they can pay out their workforce in the future. By taking this hit now, the company essentially cleared the regulatory deck.
All right, let's pivot to Section 3. And oh man, if you're a shareholder, you're going to love this one. The 230% dividend. 230%. No, that's not a typo. That is the massive recommended final dividend approved by the board for FY26. To put that into perspective, the equity shares have a face value of 10 rupees each, so a 230% dividend translates to a straight payout of 23 rupees per fully paid up share. It is an absolute flex of financial health. Think about it. Even after absorbing that nearly 1,000 lakh regulatory punch to the gut we just talked about, their cash flow is still strong enough to hand substantial value right back to the investors, assuming it gets the final nod at the AGM.
So, when does the money actually move? Here is the exact timeline from the filing. Point 1. August 19th, 2026. That's the record date. You absolutely must be on the company's books by this day. Point 2. August 20 to the 26th is the book closure period, where they prep for the annual general meeting. And point 3, payday. If the shareholders approve it, the dividend payment rolls out on or after September 17th, 2026. It's a highly organized, very predictable schedule.
Wrapping up our roadmap with Section 4, new leadership for FY27.
Think of this corporate transition like a high-stakes relay race. Over on the left, we have Mr. Vinay Mittal, the current whole-time director and CFO. He'll be hitting superannuation, basically retiring on September 30, 2026. Taking the baton on the right is Mr. Samir Jain, stepping up as the new whole-time director starting September 1. And you see that one-month overlap in September? That is a textbook, incredibly smart move by the board to guarantee the handover of financial power is completely seamless.
So, who exactly is taking the reins here? Well, before his September promotion, Samir Jain will actually join the company as Chief Corporate Officer on July 1. And his resume is seriously formidable. We're talking nearly 3 decades of experience. But honestly, it's what he's an expert in that really matters right now. Business planning, treasury operations, and get this, tax litigation. Remember that massive statutory labor code adjustment we talked about? When government regulations are shifting this fast, hiring a leader who knows exactly how to navigate tax, compliance, and cash flow is just a brilliantly strategic move.
And he's not just experienced on paper, either. The filing specifically calls out that he was awarded Finance Leader of the Year, Auto 2023. I love when they include details like this because it humanizes the data, you know? It shows the board isn't just trying to put a warm body in an empty chair. They are bringing in a recognized, award-winning heavy hitter to steer the ship into its next phase.
To back him up, the board is also bringing in the heavy cavalry for oversight in FY27. They've appointed global powerhouse Deloitte Haskins & Sells LLP right alongside Das Putnaik & Co. to handle internal audits. Plus, they reappointed Rakesh Singh & Co. as their cost auditors. It's a multi-layered, totally locked-down approach to auditing. They are clearly not taking any chances with governance and transparency under this new leadership.
And that is the FY26 filing in a nutshell. We've seen the impressive revenue growth, we've figured out the mystery behind the one-time regulatory profit drop, we talked about that awesome 230% dividend, and we met the award-winning leadership taking over. But before we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. As the regulatory landscape inevitably keeps shifting, how is this new leadership team going to balance strict statutory compliance with delivering those high shareholder returns? It is the ultimate corporate tightrope walk. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep analyzing, keep asking those questions, and I'll catch you in the next one.